Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today, so do me a favor before we dive into these topics. If you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. And if you are new here to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here with a story regarding PlayStation Plus and how it helped one developer with its game really reaching a new level of success and gaining more exposure. This is coming from PlayStation Lifestyle, where it says Deep Rock Galactic's PS Plus release contributed significantly to the IP's success, according to its developer Ghost Ship Games. CEO Soren Lundgaard revealed this in a recent earnings call held by Embracer Group, which owns Deep Rock Galactic's publisher and parent company Coffee Stain. A cooperative first-person shooter, Deep Rock Galactic is Ghost Ship's debut game and the only title it has released thus far. Deep Rock Galactic first released on PC in 2020 to positive reviews, followed by its PS Plus release in January of 2022. We broke all our records on player numbers and revenue, Lundgaard said of the game's full release. We entered into PlayStation Plus and very, very fast, 10 million players claimed the game. Started playing, enjoying the new season content, buying the cosmetic DLCs, and just had a really good time together. And this propelled the Deep Rock Galactic IP even further into closing into mainstream. So I just wanted to share this story with you because it's interesting. We don't hear too much about these deals that Sony makes with certain developers for PS Plus games that release monthly, but at least for the developers of Deep Rock Galactic, it proved to be a very wise move on their part and something that helped them out tremendously. But moving on from that, we have an interesting article regarding some things that Sony is saying about Call of Duty in regards to their AAA first-party titles. This is once again being reported by PlayStation Lifestyle. They say Sony has made a new revelation that first-party games like God of War, Horizon Forbidden West, The Last of Us, and Marvel Spider-Man may not have existed if it wasn't for Call of Duty. The claim came in one of the supporting documents submitted during the latest round of arguments over Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. While the exact figures were redacted in the report from the CMA Phase 1 responses, Sony claims Call of Duty players spend at least around $1 billion on PlayStation hardware, peripherals, subscriptions, games, and other PlayStation services. If these players left PS5 for Xbox, it would reduce Sony's ability to invest in future hardware and games. More specifically, it would, quote, reduce the potential return on producing innovative first-party games, thereby diminishing SIE's ability and incentive to invest in new games, end quote. In other words, games like God of War would be far more unlikely to exist without the presence of Call of Duty. So when I hear this from Sony, I do understand where they're coming from. Call of Duty makes them a ton of money, and so for them to take a portion of that money and invest it into their own studios and their own IP to help grow it, yeah, it makes sense. But do I believe for a second that games such as God of War, etc. wouldn't exist without Call of Duty? No, I don't. If we look at a game like God of War Ragnarok, for example, that game made Sony a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. It certainly made back the budget for not only the development of the game, but the marketing as well, and is likely making Sony a good profit. The same can be said for a lot of Sony's big AAA games. So I don't believe this. I don't think that Sony would not be making these games as big and as great as they are if it wasn't for Call of Duty. Again, I understand why in this given circumstance, Sony might try to not necessarily make that argument directly, because that's not exactly what they're saying. They're just simply pointing out that the money they make from Call of Duty allows them to, reinvest into their studios and their games. But I firmly believe that they would continue doing that even at the scale that they are right now, even without Call of Duty. It's just there would be a greater risk involved, and I think that's the biggest thing to kind of take from this, is that having Call of Duty there, specifically the money that Call of Duty makes, PlayStation acts as a bit of a safety net to a certain degree, when Sony decides to invest in these big games. So let me know your thoughts on that. Moving to the next topic, we're talking briefly about Rise of the Ronin. This is being reported by Gaming Bolt, and it says Team Ninja has delivered 2 excellent Souls-like action RPGs with the Neo games in recent years, with another one launching imminently in Wolong Fallen Dynasty. But it looks like the studio will be deviating with a very different and seemingly much more ambitious game next year, Rise of the Ronin is in the works exclusively for PS5. It's being billed as an open-world action RPG, and as it turns out, it's a game that has been in the works for quite a long time. This was revealed by Koei Tecmo in a recent interview with Famitsu, confirming that Rise of the Ronin has been in development for as long as 7 years, with production having been running concurrently to the aforementioned Wolong Fallen Dynasty in addition to DLC projects. As per the company, development is at its peak right now, and the project seems to be on track to launch in its previously announced timeframe. So it's a pretty small update for Rise of the Ronin, and I think that they implied previously that this game was in development for a very long time. Something else I do want to remind everybody is that PlayStation's ex-dev team is actually assisting Koei Tecmo in the development of this game, and that's what gets me most excited about it, is just knowing that this is going to be their biggest, most ambitious project. I mean, obviously, every developer usually says that about their upcoming game, but I feel like, you know, when they come out and they say, look, we've been working on this for 7 years, that definitely gives you an idea of just how big this game really is going to be. So let me know your thoughts on that. Moving on to the final set of topics, we're talking a little bit more about Final Fantasy 16. We have even more information to go over, starting with the fact that apparently Final Fantasy 16 won't have multiple difficulty options. So it says, as per producer Naoki Yoshida via Gamatsu, Final Fantasy 16 will not have multiple difficulty options. As previously confirmed, it will allow players to choose between action-focused and story-focused modes, and both of these will become available by equipping in-game items known as timely accessories. For players who are ready for the action, we recommend what we call our action focus mode, and for those who want to focus on the story, we have what's called story focus mode, Yoshida said. But what is the difference here? Are these just difficulty settings like easy or hard? The answer to that is no, and the true answer lies in this set of accessories that we have that we call the timely accessories. These accessories, of which up to 2 can be equipped at a time, make certain aspects of the game easier, such as dodging incoming attacks automatically, or simplifying complex combos down to a single button press. Selecting story focus mode equips these items from the start, where selecting action focus mode means they're unequipped from the start, and that's the only difference. So for those wondering what to expect when it comes to difficulty in Final Fantasy 16, hopefully this gives you a much better idea of what to expect. But now we're continuing to talk about some interesting answers that Naoki Yoshida gave. This time it's talking about why they entered into an exclusivity agreement with Sony, and it's actually a pretty interesting answer, and we're learning more about the overall development of this game. So the first question is regarding the PC version of Final Fantasy 16. During a broadcast, your comments became a topic of discussion. Please could you tell us again? So Yoshida says, firstly, for Final Fantasy 16, due to the timed exclusivity contract with SIE, we cannot release other platform versions for 6 months after the PS5 version is released. I suspect many people probably don't know why we enter such contracts. And then this is followed up with another question. From the player's perspective, I think they perceive it as something like it is for the hardware manufacturer to sell its own hardware during the contract period. And then Yoshida answers by saying, of course, I think there is also that kind of intention on the hardware manufacturer's part. However, from our point of view, the technical support we receive from the hardware manufacturer is a big factor to signing such contracts. This time, there was a portion where we were developing together with Sony Interactive Entertainment engineers who know the hardware thoroughly down to the core, and we received generous support and optimization that we could not manage on our own, and so on. Also, by not developing on the premise of multiple platforms, we can invest more man-hours into things such as building the game and optimization. In addition, we can also do promotions together globally that make me wonder how much would this be if it was converted to money. Technological and promotional support are things we would like to receive if we can receive them. So this is really interesting because we don't really get insight ever into why some of these big AAA developers, or even, with smaller developers and indie titles, why they choose to, engage in these exclusivity contracts with Sony. And we have Naoki Yoshida here basically pointing out that, yes, of course, it's going to help Sony, and they want to do it because it's going to move PS5 units. Everybody knows this. It's not a secret at all. But he also goes on to explain that it really is not only the development support, but the marketing support as well that is a huge difference maker in the eyes of a lot of these developers and even, you know, publishers like Square Enix. So some very interesting stuff there. But the final piece of information regarding Final Fantasy 16 that I have for you, this actually comes from a translation from Genki Japan over on Twitter. And he says, Final Fantasy 16 producer Naoki Yoshida said that Final Fantasy 16 was optimized for PS5 with technical support from SIE, and at present it would take roughly a $2,000 PC to be able to have a similar experience on PC. He continues by saying he is talking about at present. If they had a fully optimized PC version, I imagine it would run on lower cost PCs, but for now, without full PC optimization, it would take a high-end gaming PC to run at a similar level of performance to the fully optimized PS5 version. So I just wanted to kind of throw this in here at the end because, you know, yesterday we heard, you know, a designer from Square Enix who worked on Final Fantasy 16 basically talking about the PS5, its overall design, and how it helped with the game. But now we have Naoki Yoshida just straight up saying, like, yeah, right now in the current state, you would need a $2,000 PC. And that's, you know, that's pretty interesting. I don't think he's being paid to say things like this. I think he's just being honest in saying that, look, we have not optimized for the PC. Meanwhile, we optimized to the nth degree for the PS5. So yeah, I think that honestly, PS5 owners are excited to hear something like this because Final Fantasy 16 is, you know, as a PS5 only game, and just kind of hearing that this much effort has went into making sure that they can do everything and take full advantage of this hardware, I think, you know, is very exciting to anybody who is looking forward to this game and, you know, bought a PS5. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you found it informative. Again, leave it a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.